Hey guys, welcome back to the Unmasking Shame series. Today is video 3. So if you haven't seen the other 2 videos, I recommend watching those 2 before you watch this one. So today is the first mask. So I'm super excited to talk about this one. This is the one that I am the most familiar with within my own inner process, which is the Mask of Masculinity. So in my opinion, this is probably the most common mask that we see in the gay community. So I definitely want to dissect this one, and I'm glad we're starting out with this one because there's a lot of other little intricacies that I can work into talking about this mask as well. So I do want to point out, I have had a few messages from people, and I always respect people's input, even if they disagree with me. I think it's fantastic when people bring forward their truth, whether it's in line with mine or not. That's completely cool. But a few people have messaged me saying that some of the work I'm doing, they feel like I'm pathologizing gay men. I'm talking about how wounded they are, and I'm always focusing on that. The truth is that we are wounded. We're a wounded culture. We're a wounded community, and this has to be talked about. It has to be brought forward, because if we continue to talk about how together we are and how we're not, we're so proud and we're this and we're that, it's just another mask that we're wearing. Because if you're the type of person that you come at things and you're like, yeah, I'm so proud of being a gay man, and there's so much emotion behind it, it's typically not resolved. It's projection of something that you wish you were, so you're going to act or play the role of being that, right? So no, I'm not pathologizing. What I'm doing is I'm undoing the pathology that society has put onto us already. So this is the work that I want to do, and this is the work that I'm embarking on. So I just wanted to make that clear, because it's not about me always focusing on the negative or focusing on what's wrong with the gay community. That's the work that I'm doing. So there's other people in the community that are doing other type of work, and I would say we all are serving a great purpose. And for me, unmasking shame, you have to talk about shame to unmask it. That's the point. And when you talk about shame, it feels heavy, it feels dark, it feels yucky, right? And nobody wants to talk about it, but that's why it thrives. It thrives in secrecy. So if we continue to not talk about it because it hurts to talk about, we're going to stay stuck in it. Okay, so I wanted to make that point and make it very clear, because there's a method behind my madness and what I want to bring into the community, and I'm doing it with a very big picture thought, big picture thinking, and sometimes the small picture, it's hard to see that. Okay. All right, so the Mask of Masculinity. So first off, I want to talk about what does this represent? What does the Mask of Masculinity represent? Well, it typically represents wanting to be seen as strong, desirable, sexy, stoic, whatever the things that you attribute to being a man are. That's why we wear it. We want to be seen as that. So we put this mask on and we go around in the world and we trick people into thinking that we are all these things, when really underneath is really what we are. Okay, so what is the mask covering up? So the mask is covering up the opposite of that, right? We have somewhere along the line have attributed the opposite of masculine is feminine. So we've attributed feminine to being weak or not desirable in the gay community, or whatever that is for you. That's when we do this work with unpeeling the mask off, we need to actually go in to look at what is the mask covering up. Okay, biggest thing to know in doing this work. So everybody in the gay community knows the term mask for mask. So this is a term that I've also had on my profile before when I was on Scruff and Grinder like many years ago. I would use that term, and I was using it from a place of identifying with masculinity from a very toxic standpoint. So toxic masculinity, to me, means we have a very narrow-minded viewpoint of what it means to be a man. We attribute being a man to very specific physical attributes. And when we don't have those physical attributes, we are considered feminine or effeminate or flamboyant or whatever it might be. Okay, so that when we project that image into the world, it means that that's where we are at in our view of ourselves. Okay, that's why we're projecting it outward. That's why we feel we need to wear a mask. So what we want to understand is what is fusing this mask of masculinity to our face. And it's always going to be shame, okay? Not feeling good enough in who we are, not feeling acceptable, not feeling lovable. All of these things is why we feel we need to change who we are by putting a mask on in the first place, okay? So the journey to self-acceptance really is a journey home to yourself. It's a journey home to all the things that you've split off from about who you are that you don't like or you deem as undesirable, right? So when we get to that place where we feel that we don't like who we are, that's when we start to wear these masks. That's when we start to change who we are so we can be seen different in the eyes of others, because we rely on the eyes of others to reflect back to us who we are, because we lack a sense of self. Okay? Why we lack a sense of self is because we have identified with our mind to tell us who we are, and our mind can only tell us who we are so far. When we're identified with mind to create our sense of self or our self-concept or whatever it is, which that's what self-concept is. It's using the mind to identify with who we are. So our thoughts, our feelings, our perceptions, others' reactions, stereotypes, identity, self-concept, all of those come back to identification with mind to tell us who we are. Okay, this journey, the journey towards self-acceptance through healing, through shame, is always going to happen in the heart. Okay, so the ego represents the mind-created self, and the heart creates the authentic self. So when we have worn these masks, they are fusing to our face with shame, and shame is a good friend of the ego, right? So we need to make sure that when we're doing this work, we understand the difference between how we're identifying in the world and actually who we are. There's a strong discrepancy between those two, right? And the mask is a temporary thing that we wear to close that gap between the discrepancy of who we are and who we want to be seen as, right? So, but when you take the mask off, you'll find you're still over here in this, I'm not sure who I am, and I need to come back home to myself, because we've been identifying with this persona, this facade, or this mask of who we are, and then we spend a majority of our time after we peel our mask off picking up these pieces of who we actually are, our authentic self, and letting go of this whole idea that we have to be something in the first place. Okay, so it's like a surrendering. You go through this process where you surrender this need to attach or identify to a concept of who we are at all in the first place, right? How can I show up in the essence of who I am and be okay with that? That's the question I've been pondering for the last few years in my life, is why do I need to identify with any of it, right? And I know there's a lot of people that might watch this video and they might think like, you know, or even see the tagline on my business, the gay man's coach. Why does it have to be the gay man? Why does it have to be a stereotype at all? And it's because we are a bunch of human minds interacting with each other, and human minds need to conceptualize. They need to identify with something to know whether they like it or dislike it or prefer or not prefer, right? So that we need to understand that there's that aspect of it, but when we're doing this work, we're doing it inside of ourselves. We're not doing it in the outside world. So when we do this work, we're giving ourselves permission to surrender to the idea that I can be just the vastness of who I am, which is an energy of who you are, right? So I want you to even just close your eyes in this moment and just tune into the energy that's pulsing through your body at this moment. So for me, I'm talking and I can feel this energy bubbling up inside of me, and it's bringing out words, right? These words aren't scripted. These words aren't coming from a place of me thinking that I need to prove anything or whatever. It's just an energy inside of me it's coming through. That this is who I really am. This is my energy. So I want you guys to really tune into that and start to pay attention to that. And when you feel like you have an urge to be incongruent with who you are, I want you to just pause, take a deep breath, and go inside your body and recognize that the energy underneath the thought that's trying to change who you are is really who you are. And that's what you want to start to connect with. Okay? The last point I want to make is men are so freaking lonely in this world. I get messages on the daily. I'm not kidding. I get messages every single day from people. I get emails weekly from people telling me their stories, their struggle, their things that they're going through. And a lot of them are from men who are struggling with feeling lonely and feeling disconnected. And this is exactly why. When we wear masks, we get connected from others based off of what we put out. So people are connecting to our mask. And if they're connecting to your mask, they're connecting to your false self. So you get a false sense of connection. When you put your authentic self out, you get connected through your authentic self, and you get an authentic connection back. authentic connection is why we live, which is what we live for. It gives us a sense of joy and love. And if that's something that you have, and one of the things that you want in your life is more love and more meaningful connection, that you need to learn how to peel the masks off and start to step in and tune into the energy of who you really are. Okay? So if this is something that you're struggling with, I strongly encourage you to practice with people that you feel safe with. And if I can be that person for you, fantastic. Whether it's informally through messages on Instagram or whatever, and you feel safe to say some things with me that you don't feel safe to say with others, great, I love it. But if you want to do some coaching and you want to start to do some face-to-face work and get to a place where you feel safe to show up as who you are, great, let's do it, right? But you need to start to practice, because this is not going to be a thing where you just peel your mask off and you throw it out and it's gone, because you will fall into these places of feeling insecure and lack of confidence. You're going to want to put the mask back on. So you need to do this in baby steps and practice moving in the direction of what is your authentic self and letting go of what is your false self. So yeah, would love to hear some people's opinions, thoughts. Send me some comments down below. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. What is what I'm saying bringing up in you? That's what I want to hear. Whether you agree with me or not, whether my truth is congruent to yours or not, I want to hear what you have to think about it. Okay? Sending you guys tons of love on your journey. Take care.